Right now, the United States is one of only 2 countries in the world that is not signed onto a treaty that very well may get the government involved in how you raise your kids. Why haven't we heard about this? Let's ask Mike Farris. He's a constitutional lawyer, chancellor of Patrick Henry College in Virginia, and founder of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and a leading advocate of parental rights. Mike, why haven't we heard about this treaty that's being proposed?
Well, it's been sitting in limbo ever since 1995. The political climate simply wasn't right for it to be sent to the Senate for ratification. Madeleine Albright, on behalf of the Clinton administration, did sign it in '95, but the time is right now. The Obama administration, particularly Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Barbara Boxer in the Senate, believe that this is their hour, and it's probably going to be coming up for ratification either this fall or maybe next spring. But sometime in this session of Congress, we're going to see this UN treaty that tells all parents and children how their lives will be governed through the UN by the United States government.
I mean, this would be huge, and we're not hearing about it, Mike. So, first of all, to the skeptic.
Right.
Now, how do I know this is really going to make a difference in the way the case law could be applied? Are there any instances in the past where children have sort of maybe taken on their parents in a courtroom setting?
In Washington State, for a number of years, they had a state law that paralleled the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. It's since been repealed, but when I was a lawyer in Washington State, a 13-year-old boy went to the social workers through his public school counselors and complained that his parents took him to church too much. They went Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night prayer meeting. The social workers were outraged about this amount of church, and they removed the boy on an emergency basis.
Normally, took him out of his own home.
Out of his own home on an emergency, which is, for child abuse, serious matters. The 72-hour hearing came along 3 days later. I was the lawyer for the families. The only issue in the case was how much church. And the judge said, you know what? I think once a week is enough church for any 13-year-old boy. And if you want to keep custody of your son, you've got to agree to take him to church only once a week. And so, if that's the judge making his own decision for his own son, fine. But every parent in America should be able to decide education, religion, health care, all those basic decisions. Not abuse or neglect, but the basic decisions of life. That ought to be in the hands of the parents, not the government.
Now, this treaty that is going to be pending before the United States Senate, why would that have an impact on cases like the one in Washington State? Explain that.
It's a curious thing in our Constitution. Unlike any other constitution in the world, we have a supremacy clause that says treaties are part of the highest law of the land, and they override state laws and state constitutions. Now, the reason that was is the Founding Fathers thought we don't want the states messing with what's really international law, like border disputes and diplomats and that sort of thing. They want to keep the states out of international law. Nobody imagined using international law to control the domestic policy of this country. So we've got this unusual provision in our Constitution, and if we ratify this treaty, the UN law, not state law, becomes the supreme law of the land. And the most basic rule in American politics is Americans should make the law for America. And that's what we're fighting about. And in fact, the people in the U.S. Senate that think we should have international law, I think if they don't feel competent to help govern this country, they ought to resign, and let's replace them with people who feel like we can make an American law for this issue.
Well, it's amazing to me, Mike, that we've got people in America that would ever think that we should subject ourselves to some international UN resolution or treaty. This would have an impact where not only the case in Washington, but a case where if a child wants to sue her parents because maybe she doesn't like the being grounded, that could potentially, we're really seriously talking about that, aren't we?
Well, we are, and that's not just a hypothetical example. Another Washington State case from that same law that parallels this UN treaty perfectly. 13-year-old girl was having sexual relations with her boyfriend, smoking marijuana. The parents grounded her. The government removed her. It went to the Supreme Court of Washington. The case is named In Re Sheila Marie Sumi, and Sheila Marie was taken from her home and given to the government. Later, Sheila Marie testified for me in a Senate hearing saying what the parents what the state of Washington, rather, should have done is tell me, go home and obey my parents. She said they did me no favors trying to protect me from my family.
What a novel idea, obey your parents. Yeah. I mean, that's a unique kind of concept. I didn't really have a choice. I tell people I was raised by a very patriotic father. He laid on the stripes and I saw stars. I mean, that was patriotism in the old-fashioned way. I would never thought of suing him.
But that would be illegal in the United States after this treaty. One of the most clear provisions of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is all spanking is banned. All spanking. We're not talking about abusive spanking. That's already banned in this country. But if we're talking about a normal, regular spanking, parents cannot do that under this treaty, and that would be directly enforceable under this treaty in our courts.
You know, one of the things I want to point out is that we're not going to get to as near the amount of information. On the website, MikeHuckabee.com, we're going to post 10 basic things about the structure of the rights of the child, and also then the substance. And then in addition, Mike Farris's website will also be on the screen, and you can get additional information. I want parents in America to know about this. I want grandparents to know. I want people to be calling their senators and tell them we're going to be watching you to see how you vote. This is an outrage. And every American parent and every American citizen ought to be concerned that we would even consider it. And I think, Mike, one of the things you've pointed out, we may not have heard about this because other countries can sign a treaty and it doesn't have the impact that it would in this country. But this fundamentally undermines the basic right of a parent. Now, is there anything that Americans are doing or can do to sort of get the control back?
Well, what we can do, first of all, is speak out to our senators. If American families stand up and speak up on this issue and tell their U.S. senators, we want American law to control the issue of parents and children, that's one thing that we can all do. The other thing is just simply to be alert to the small, the little foxes spoil the vine, and like HIPAA regulations. We all are tired of those pieces of paper every time we go to the doctors. Doctors can use their own professional judgment under HIPAA regulations and not give parents medical reports done on their children. A father in Tennessee recently consented to his son being tested for drugs, but the doctor would not give him the results under this HIPAA regulation. So we need to fight it day by day, issue by issue, and we're proposing a constitutional amendment to permanently put a stake through the vampire called international law. And Pete Hoekstra, congressman from Michigan, and 80 co-sponsors now in the House of Representatives are pushing this. The whole leadership team of the Republican Party is on board, and we have a Democrat co-sponsor, one, and that's good. And so that's another thing that we can do to permanently protect parental rights.
Mike, I want to continue to monitor this situation with you, and I want to have you back from time to time. Great. Because I'm very interested in making sure that we absolutely don't just sit back and go to sleep on this issue. It would be an absolute outrage, and every American parent ought to be concerned. Again, go to the websites that we've had up on the screen because I want you to get more information. I want you to get fired up about this. I'm fired up about it. I cannot believe that this is a serious challenge to parental authority. And God help us if we do not make a strong stand as parents. Thank you, Mike Farris, for being here today and telling us about it.